If you're here, you probably already know what Ouster does. Ouster is a physical AI company making high-resolution digital LiDAR sensors and software. We partner with industrial robotics and drones, automotive and smart infrastructure industries. Our LiDAR sensors power collision avoidance and autonomous navigation, mapping and localization, and spatial analytics applications. Today, we're speaking with one of our customers, Smart Drone, an American mapping and drone company. In today's complex geopolitical environment, the ability to secure reliable and resilient supply chains is paramount. Over the past couple of years, we've seen increasing momentum from drone companies. However, manufacturing drones domestically in the United States presents a unique set of complexities and advantages. With our guest today, we are going to talk through the process of building drones on American soil. So without further delay, let me introduce my guest today, Mr. Taylor Dixon. Welcome, Taylor.
Thank you very much, Bhagwat, and I'm excited to jump into the topics.
Awesome. Great to have you, Taylor. Before we kickstart our conversation, I wanted to introduce you to our audience. Taylor is a veteran of the drone industry with over a decade of experience developing technology for a wide range of industrial applications. As a co-founder of Smart Drone, he leads software development, data analytics, hardware sales, and customer support, playing a key role in aligning Smart Drone's technology with real customer needs. Taylor, I know I've introduced you briefly. It would be great if you can share a bit more about yourself and your story. Next slide.
Yes, absolutely. So I started out in the drone space back in 2015. This is very much the quintessential startup out of university. It's my first company, and we did a lot of learnings and personal learnings on what the drone space looks like. That was back in the heyday of the drone hype bubble, if you will. So a lot of different technologies were being discovered, being tested, being talked about. And then when it came down to actually producing a product that's going to solve problems for the target industry that we identified, being surveying and mapping, I found myself looking for a new opportunity, moving to Texas, where we have a lot more regional growth available for and better supply logistics out of the central of the country. And we will go a lot more into some of those advantages later. And established and co-founding Smart Drone, where we've come to develop a product that meets the needs of the surveying industry. And we've deployed multiple products to different surveying firms and municipalities and universities, and have developed a services industry to also take advantage of our great improvements to this industry right immediately. So a little bit more about myself. A lot of my focus was in the sensor fusion and adoption of that, and how to take various sensors and adapt them into the surveying space. And in addition to that, as soon as the rubber hit the road with trying to get these products out the door, my focus began a lot more around supply chain management, manufacturing, quality control, and making sure that the data that the drone collects is collected properly, is delivered properly, and is actionable for our users.
Got it. Great. Thanks, Taylor. That's exciting. I'm excited for today's chat. Let's quickly move through the agenda. Next slide, please. Yeah, this is a quick preview of what to expect in today's webinar. We'll learn about why American-made drones matter. What does it take to build an American drone supply chain? What are the big challenges in truly building an American supply chain for drones? And we'll also delve a bit deeper into what's the future of US drone manufacturing and some factoids from Taylor and his journey with Smart Drone. We'll close it out with a Q&A. Awesome. Let's move to the next slide. Taylor, yeah. Before we dive into some of the topics on the agenda, can you share a bit about Smart Drone? I'm curious to learn about what products, what services you guys provide. Any story of Smart Drone?
Absolutely. And as I go kind of through the history of Smart Drone and how we came to be, how we came to really explore and gather all these learnings that I hope to share with you today, I want to keep in mind that while we are a drone company and while we have a platform that is simple enough for our users to use and solves their problems every day, a lot of what I'm talking about is really going to be applicable to any robotic or complex small batch manufactured system. And so as just some of the insights that we've seen in producing these, what I'm just going to repeatedly call small batch manufactured complex products, I hope will be applicable to those who are also trying to breach into the space. So that's a great place to start, because really the first fundamental thing that you need to, that we set out to do at Smart Drone was to figure out the problems within the surveying space that we need to solve, or we want our product to solve. And as we, went out, stood out in the Texas heat with surveyors, learning their workflows, seeing their office environments, understanding how their businesses operate, we began to see some of the immediate problems being a lot of the drone tech that other companies during this hype bubble that I mentioned before were producing and putting forward were up here in the complexity of data side, and the surveyors in their workflows were here. And so that gap left a lot of them looking at this data going, well, I could theoretically see how this works, but for my business and my workflow, this doesn't really solve my problem. So at Smart Drone, we then set out to solve that problem by focusing on data that's actionable and that replicates their workflows that they use, and is simple enough for them to use out of the box. And so what I would import as far as experience to people is that in order to solve the problems of your potential customers, or what you're hoping for your product to address, you're going to have to do the hard work that they do every day. Yeah. So whether that's standing out in the field with a stick, taking GPS measurements of a hot dirt, or whether that's going elsewhere and looking at what a robot would be replacing, actually being there provides a lot of value and insight into the problems that you're going to solve. And then what we saw, so as soon as we kind of saw this gap, we had people telling us, here's what would be needed. And of course, interviewing them, their biggest answer whenever people would ask, well, what is your, when we would ask, what is your problems? They would say, labor. The industry that we work in is a challenging industry because it requires a lot of manual power to go through and collect data so that we can then convert that into actionable insights for engineers, designers, and other people who are going to be working this land. And so, I think that is going to be a running motif in general as people are creating these small batch manufactured systems, is that a lot of time the problem that you're going to be solving is labor, and how people can get the labor to do the nasty, hard jobs that aren't typically that really add cost to projects and such like that. So at Smart Drone, we started to understand our customers' needs, and we started to understand where they were coming from in their workflows to address these problems. And once we identified that, then became the hard work of designing something that was simple enough to use and that we could demonstrate they could trust within their workflows. Because again, for any system, because you're going to be within a small batch manufactured product, more complex product, trust is going to be a cornerstone of anything that you do. And so the next thing we set out to do was build a platform that could be trusted and was simple enough to use. And then ultimately, what that led to was us asking our customers, how do we build this trust with you? How do we get from, here's a piece of product that we can show you works, and we can show you, but how do we get to where you trust that it's going to do it every day? And that's where we began to understand people are looking for a services today and a product tomorrow, and which led us to putting boots on the ground using our products to begin building that trust cycle within the industry and within individual customers so that they could get the benefits today. We could improve our product and see our product in the market and build that trust with them so that as we release newer products or as we come back for additional services or to try to implement our product within their workflow, we're not a stranger off the street. We're the trusted data provider. We're the trusted drone guys. And speaking a little bit more about the now, that brings us to today, to where we're able to focus on our quality control and manufacture processes to ensure that trust remains, while also offering in-country services and training. Because going to another lesson that we learned within our within this whole process over the past 5 years is that we're not putting these products on Best Buy shelves. This is us having a relationship with our customer so that we can provide, our product can provide them the best solution for their needs, labor, accelerating their timelines, reducing their costs, and that it will do that every day of the year. And if anything was to go wrong or any question or additional training for new staff members, we're there to provide that within the country, a part of that relationship that we've built.
Got it. Awesome. Thanks a lot for sharing that. I'm curious to know, from Smart Drone's perspective, why is prioritizing American-made manufacturing becoming increasingly critical for you guys and for the drone industry? If you can share some.
Yeah. So I often equate it to good in, good out. So the same type of services and relationship that we're providing to our customers in a B2B nature is, in order to do so, we're going to need the same type of relationship from the incoming side of our product. So whether that be our sensor providers like Ouster, or whether that be our machinists who are taking the aluminum and building it to spec and working closely with us to meet quality controls for torque spec meet and all these complexities that come with keeping a high quality product in the sky, being able to go to their location, being able to sit down with them and talk face to face, like we're doing now, to understand where their product is going, and also then they can, street goes both ways. They also understand what we're needing, where we are with the product, and how we can kind of build as well. And I'll talk a little more later about how this feeds into an innovation cycle and how this can, all of the additional benefits that come out of this type of relationship. But at the end of the day, what we found in this discovery process, discovery being our flagship product, is that it's more about the relationships that you build within the US that's going to drive those values.
Got it. Super.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious to know, trust is a common goal for most products. What has Smart Drone done to garner trust with its customers?
Yeah. So with the flight platform, the biggest trust item is reliability. And then there's another layer within our industry specifically around data accuracy, because our customers are all licensed to provide accurate data to their customers. And so we need to be there and ready to assist them in not only understanding how this data gets accurate, but also giving them tools to validate the data that they're working into their workflows. And then ultimately, when we're looking at a product, it is, as a technologist and someone who's kind of been in the technology space for 10 years, there's almost this deep desire to want to have a piece of magic that you're presenting to the world. And you have this little black box and you say, hey, I made this cool thing. It does magic. You're welcome, right? But in reality, that doesn't really foster a lot of trust. So what, you kind of have to be counterintuitive with that matter. And that's what we've done as Smart Drone with our product, is say, hey, here's the tool, here's how it works, here's what it's built on, and here's the inner pieces of it. Very open book with our customers and our vendors so that we're both working on both sides of it. And for example, our product has a unlimited services license for the processing of the data. And within that, when we're giving our training to our customers, we're laying out, during this process, here's the GNSS reports. So here's the underlying data that can indicate that there may be an issue, or the day wasn't, within the GPS space, there's a lot of fun edge cases that you can get into. But we present that to them. We also then bring it down a chain as well. Say, you take your points, you feed it into the system, and then the system's going to be using your accuracies in order to bring it true to the project. And it's going to tell you how accurate the product was out of the gate. And so a lot of these trust but verify systems built in, not only within the QC checks of our internal manufacturing, but also within the product itself as it sits in the customer's hand. So the customer can have this product, trust our brand, but then the product itself is constantly reinforcing that trust cycle by showing how it's performing, and then also validating against their trusted workflows. And I think at the end of the day, this is a mantra that's hard to get in for a lot of innovators, because it really is opening yourself up and having your product be almost vulnerable to build this trust. But that's just something that we found has to be done. And even within our manufacture cycle, when we look at our quality control methods, every one of our product comes with a little card signed by our quality control specialist saying, this has flown this many times. On this flight, here is the accuracy that we saw in our control field. This flight, here's the accuracy in the language of our customer. And just the little things like that wherever you can insert a trust building exercise within your quality control, within your product as it sits in the customer's hands, that's really what's going to drive the trust going forward.
Got it. Interesting. I'm actually really curious. What's the core reason or insight behind people really wanting American-made stuff?
Yeah. So
is it a more recent phenomenon, or have you seen this play out over multiple years?
I think, yeah, just to kind of jump in, I've been in the drone space for about a decade now, and I can speak to early drone surveying and mapping adoption and the challenges that faced. So what happened is that you had early products hit the market that could perform basic photo and GPS stamping on these photos. And then you had these software companies come out that were taking advantage of the early market adoption of these drones that were, go up, point, and shoot. And they would then produce a photogrammetry result that has a model that technically has ground points that you could say, hey, here's the lat long and altitude of that at that. And so you had a lot of people who were entrepreneurially looking to use this new technology that's becoming more adopted in the market to attack the needs of these surveyors. Because it's not unobvious that these surveyors want to go faster and have it cost less. Now, but the problem came in is when they were delivered the final data, the surveyors would turn around and go and try to speak the language that they understand around accuracies with these early drone service providers who didn't understand the language requirements or how to tie into the surveying market. So you had a lot of these technology entrepreneurs who weren't actually weren't understanding the surveyor's language and problem to solve it in completion. And as a surveyor, your license from the state relies on your continued providing of accurate data that is showing that you're not violating your license. And so you're a surveyor, you're in an office, someone comes in and tells you, hey, we have this product, it can make your life 10 times easier and make everything 10 times cheaper. Just, pay up front and I'll come back with data and you'll be amazed. Who can say no? So they come back, they're not amazed, they're confused, maybe they're upset because they were relying on this on one specific project and now they have to reallocate their field crew and kind of scramble. And this process happened all throughout the country, burning a lot of the drone space use in the surveyor's mind and completely destroying that trust cycle. Now, this is because within American products, you get this advantage that you are working with your neighbor, essentially. And so by shopping American business to business products, you're inherently going to be purchasing something from someone who sat down and understands your specific workflow. Because surveying in the US is going to be different than surveying in Germany. That's going to be different than surveying in Japan and the like. And therefore, addressing this specific market requires someone who understands, and a company that understands and is driving towards fostering this trust cycle and building that type of relationship. So oftentimes what I tell people, whether it's construction equipment, whether it's drones, whether it's AI bots for monitoring hospital halls, look to the people who are going and meeting with you and shaking your hand as an American business, because they're the ones that are going to come up with the solutions that are going to work for you. And they're the ones that you're going to be able to call when you have an extra need or when something goes awry and you need a quick response. Because simply put, with these growing complexity and growing robotics industries, that's what's going to be the driver of actual adoption and actual value being used, not necessarily the stuff you'll go buy off a Best Buy shelf.
Got it. Super. Thank you so much. Can you actually talk me through some of the key components of a drone and any stories around sourcing / procuring these components? How any highs, lows in that?
I think the next slide will really help me out here as we talk through a couple of these, and I can kind of point at, virtually. So within a drone, any drone platform is trying to do one thing. They're trying to take a sensor payload and put it up in the sky and to record data and record its position while recording that data. Sounds simple enough, but alas, there's a lot of complexities that go into keeping a reliable system that operates every time and manufactures multiple of them that operate every time. So, I'll kind of talk I've talked a lot about the trust, how we've developed a simple system to use for our customers, and simplicity is really a key in that adoption. Also talked a lot about solving the problem and unmatched in-country service, but I'm going to introduce another concept in here, which is the innovation cycle. So when you look towards, when you go buy a product off a shelf, say you're going to go and get a Sony camera from Best Buy to try to stick on a drone, inherently you're kind of limiting yourself to the available market that everyone else also has access to. One great benefit and for looking at your key components and asking the question, hey, what if I call this guy? So my piece of advice to throwing out to all of our participants here, if you're buying more than 5 things from someone, just call them and say, hey, I'm probably going to be buying a lot from you. What's down the pipe? Where is your product line looking like? I'm buying this product. Is this the right product? Do you think I should wait for your next product? A lot of that conversation is going to help drive your innovation cycle and might give you the edge. So for example, one story that we have is our camera. We set out looking at vibration dampening systems and other gimbaling systems to handle the rolling shutter challenges that come with recording rolling shutter cameras in the sky.
Yeah.
And we kind of had an idea of, hey, these global cameras are starting to hit the market and they're starting to become a little bit more affordable. what's out there? Who can we talk to about this? So we called up a couple companies, and our camera provider, we got on the phone with, this is before they were a camera provider, and they said to us, hey, we have this product line that we just launched, and here's where you can buy it. It's one distributor currently, but I think this is really going to fit your need. Now, granted, they kind of gave us the caveat of there might be more development needed. We're still working on firmware updates, and we'll keep you posted on them. We haven't used these in a drone before, but if you're looking for a global shutter camera that's affordable and that can operate in these type of environments, here's a global shutter camera we made for manufacturing lines at rapid speed that might work. So and then we were able to take that camera, do the R&D necessary to adapt it to the drone space, and provide something that was novel that we wouldn't have ever known about or gone in that direction of success without actually talking and having that relationship with that vendor. And then, honing in more on the camera, you put these out in the field and they're all throughout the United States, and you're getting a call from one of your service guys saying, hey, I'm looking at my camera, I'm getting a blurry images on the left side of the screen, what's going on? Well, because you've talked with your vendor provider, you can call them up, say, hey, I'd love some feedback on this. We're seeing this. What could be the issue? That way, you don't have to become a camera expert for every sensor, because if you have to be a LiDAR expert, a motor expert, a camera expert, you'll spend all your years doing PhD dissertations on each. But you can then work with those experts to derive quality control checks in the future. So now I can say, hey, we actually looked at your last mission and this started to show up.
Yeah.
We're going to put in our software some quality control that looks specifically based off of the suggestion of our vendors. And this goes for a lot of our other components and how the vendor relationship really feeds into that innovation cycle. And then also, if you have a relationship with them, even if you're not their biggest quantity provider, if you're able to give them feedback on new markets that they're now in, then they're much more willing to pick up the phone when you have a problem and when you're looking for the next solution. Because maybe you've fed into their product cycle saying, oh, well, if you were able to do this, then that would really, the UAV market would really like that. And then lo and behold, a year later, you get your wish.
Got it. Okay. You mentioned a couple of times about the innovation cycle. How does Made in America affect, other things such as capital efficiency, time to delivery, support costs?
Yeah. So I think that's the other big advantage of doing Made in America. And I think the next slide is really going to show this advantage in pictorial form, so to say. So we're in Texas. We're very central to the United States, and we have an array of products distributed throughout the United States, as well as service members throughout the United States. So a couple of things. One, by having this relationship with your vendors and being able to get just-in-time products, you're able to work out agreements such as, hey, can you be available to send us 5 over the next 6 months? It might not be this month, it might not be next month, but say the month after that, if we order 5, could we have that ready to go? That saves me from ordering 10 and putting it on my shelf and having it sit there and waiting. So a lot of capital efficiency comes from having that vendor and being able to know your delivery cycle. So in Texas, we can get a lot of parts next day, which makes it a lot faster. As soon as we see end of year cycles, we typically see a lot of people doing capital purchases at end of year. All of a sudden now we're spooling up everything to meet that demand. Then what we've also found is that with these small batch manufactured complex products, the United States is a very environmentally varied market. And with drones, this is very relevant because you're talking about flying outside, but also within any other product, you're going to have various environments and challenges that come with those environments. And so what we're able to do, because we've centralized ourselves and focused on the quality control point is that we're able to test all of these quality control metrics in the field with all of our service members. So they're getting the new stuff, they're getting the new updates. We can test and make sure that this update isn't going to break the trust cycle with our end customers, while also having them deliver value to their customers immediately. And then, of course, within our own house, we can take that quality control feedback and improve our own quality control metrics on our manufacturer line. Then lastly is the out process, where when we're selling the drones, and because we're central, we're able to deliver, train, and provide the support in, we're in a time zone that's very amenable to most times, be it Pacific or East. We're all working at the same time. We can also offer the training in person because we're central. We're able to travel without traveling long distances to most of our clients. And of course, ensure delivery and know and understand the delivery process. I mean, I can kind of speak a little bit about the delivery process's challenges, because during the product development cycle, most people will go through, you're getting out your initial early products, your early product deliveries. You focused a lot on building that trust cycle on the drone, on the data, and you have packaging, but that packaging hasn't been completely tested within the United States' FedEx system.
Yeah.
And so initially you're going to be doing drop shipping or hand shipping, where you're doing individual person comes, picks it up, that person delivers it as their small business. And being central for that is definitely going to cut your cost and time to delivery. If I'm going from Texas to Pennsylvania, that's a lot more reasonable from a cost and support perspective than going LA to Pennsylvania. You might as well send from LA to China at that point. Additionally, when you're looking at, and then as you continue your development cycles, now you get into testing with FedEx or your preferred shipping carrier. Each facility that services a region has their own, let's say, challenges. So if you ever ship anything to South Carolina, just beware. There's a 30 centimeter drop that your product will go through every time. So a lot of these things become learnings that you are able to harden your product. And stealing a phrase that's a bit of a buzzword, it helps you become anti-fragile by having those vendor relationships that you can rely on and build, improve capital efficiencies, improve delivery times, products, having a distributed network of testers / service members who are delivering revenue or developing revenue, and then also being able to be in a centralized location to distribute product. And going back to the American-made drone and the manufacturing of the American-made drone, this is the type of service and infrastructure that you could expect from a vendor of an American-made product. So while I'm sitting here acting as that middleman as we're turning our vendor products into our discovery, into useful robotics for the surveying industry, I'm sure you could play the same thing for our camera provider. They're turning resistors into boards into products that we integrate. And because they also have a similar supply chain, it's a lot faster because simply the length of travel is smaller and it's greener for the planet.
Nice. Thank you. I would move to the last section or segment of this time. I would love to learn a bit about what is the future of US drone manufacturing looks like. Any learnings that you can share for our audience or potential, entrepreneurs who are going to start something, which is American.
I think, and then I think we'll go to the next slide on this one to kind of perfect. So a lot of this, I've gone over a lot of our history, some of the motifs that we've learned, and I think the trajectory of our learnings kind of shows where I think the robotics industry and drones being one of those industries is going. With American-made products, quality control and quality assurance is everything. Because at the end of the day, when you're doing complex robotics products that are replacing people, you can trust a person by getting to know a person. When you trust a robot, you can't get to know it. You're trusting the brand, and you're trusting the quality control that went into that robot that's going to be operating around you. So that trust and quality control cycle is key, and really to drive a lot of the decisions as you're developing your product. And then with that as well, in building that trust, is the customer relationship management. So, the people that are going to be buying robots that add value to their business aren't going to be wanting to go to a Best Buy and pick something up off a shelf. They want to talk to a person who understands their business and can lay out how their workflows are going to be improved, which requires a lot of knowledge about their needs and requires that American touch to say, hey, I've been in your scenario. I've seen how you operate. I understand your market specifically, and our product is here to address you and your business. And then as we look at the challenges, before we hit the challenges of the cost increase and how to mitigate some of those challenges, we wrapping up our innovation cycle, I can't stress enough that being able to go into someone who's doing your machine work, understanding what their challenges are and making your part, and saying, oh, well, I didn't realize that chamfer was going to add $300 onto my part. I don't need that. If I cut that out, is that better? Oh yeah, that makes it a 20-cent part. Okay, that's something that relationship builds on. Go, if you're buying more than 5, go talk to them. If you're buying more than 100, go visit them. Because not just in trying to negotiate for a lower price, but learning what part of your product or your ask is hard for them, and also trying to teach them how they can better serve you. And then the last thing I want to touch on is the big scary word tariffs and how the supply chain is being affected by the tariffs and changing. I think that when you offer a product and a price to a market, if you're able to trust that you can deliver that value for that price, then it's acceptable. A lot of the cost increases you're going to see and are going to be twofold. One, strict tariffs coming in from components you chose to be overseas. That's just going to labor you with additional cost. You might have to eat the margin. Maybe you're going to bump up your price and have to explain to your customer why it's more expensive. And then 2 is the scramble. So there's a guy sitting at a desk figuring out where he's going to get this part now, and you're paying for his labor, and that is also going to drive up your costs. So by focusing on developing those relationships inside the US, where we have the 250 years of great cooperative businesses and all the cooperative trade happening, you're gonna have a locked-in supply chain that you've built this relationship with, that you trust can deliver your product, and that you're gonna pull things off of that guy's plate, and he won't be pulling his hair out, which saves everyone a lot of heartache. Especially your developers, because as soon as something changes in a complex product like this, you're also then sending down the chain to all of your developers saying, hey, I know this product we've spent a month developing and putting into our platform. We're going to have to go with another product. So how much is it going to cost to do R&D? Which, if anyone who's done R&D knows, that's a very expensive question to ask.
Super. Awesome. Yeah, so looking ahead, what are the biggest opportunities?
Yeah, I think I'll wrap it up. Looking ahead, the biggest opportunities for the robotic market is understanding how to provide value to your customers and having them adopt it. I think up till now, there's been a lot of hype cycles around the what can be done in robotics. But now we need to get to the hard work of this is being done. This is how it's done. And this is how we're going to do it. And that's the type of stuff that really industries are built off of. And so within our own story, we focus on simplifying operations. We focus on adaptability by the industry, that adaptability with that innovation cycle, that from building that relationship with your vendor, also from having a robust supply network, because you're not having to deal with these supply shocks. Like, for example, if you're getting products from overseas, you never know what some other state actor is going to affect your supply chain. So just showing our adoption over the past 5 years, we've seen nothing but growth as far as entering into these various markets and using this strategy of building trust, making a simple system that solves problems and providing service within the United States. And which is really why I'm here proselytizing these points, that if you can follow this equation within your product, you're going to see that success within your customers. Now, you'll see from 2021 to 2022, it's not you wake up the next morning and all of a sudden everyone's at your front door knocking, trying to get in. You're building that trust cycle. But it's going to be reliable, it's going to be repeatable, and it's going to be sustained.
Got it. Super. Thanks a lot, Taylor. We can move to Q&A. I'm not sure if we have any questions yet, but audience, feel free to type in your questions. We'll give a couple of minutes. Else we can wrap up. This has been a solid conversation, Taylor.
Yeah, thank you. And again, thank you so much for having me. I love having conversations like this. I think there's a lot to be said around educating entrepreneurs and innovators. I had a lot of people educate me as I was becoming an innovator entrepreneur. And so it's only fair to turn around and just kind of share what I've come to experience. I guess I know there's a feature on here we talked about. Oh, perfect. We have a question.
All right, perfect. Great presentation, guys. All right, so Marshall, what your studies say how much the addressable market is and how the adoption rate is growing on your side?
What the studies say how much addressable? So we're talking about the TAM and adoption rate.
Correct.
A lot of those are numbers that our fundraising team focuses on. And stuff that we present to investors and potentially interested parties. So I can't personally share that information here, but what I can say is in that last slide, as someone who focuses a lot on the product side, you have the total addressable market, and that's the opportunity. But meeting that opportunity is a lot of what I'm hoping some of these points, again, I'm just going to keep saying them so that hopefully they'll go home with them. Make sure that you can build those trust cycles, that people trust your platform. You build something that's simple enough for them to use and that's affordable, that can fit their pocketbook. You focus on their problems by going and meeting with them and being a part of their workflow, and then providing this unmatched in-country service and training. With those, you can take that addressable market and start taking market share, which is what every entrepreneur dreams to do. I'm sorry I couldn't answer that question with a more studied answer, but I know if I was to bring any TAM market numbers, the next report comes out and it's different. So.
Super. We'll give a minute more, else we can wrap up.
Yeah. And I think I know we have another person working on the back end here to assist us. I would like to ask a question of the audience, if that's possible.
And if anyone has any responses, go ahead and put that in the Q&A module as well, and we'll be able to look at the answers.
Yeah, perfect. I guess my question would be, how many people here have called a vendor of theirs? Like, just yes or no. I work closely with my vendors. Actually, I have never reached out directly. I guess the poll functionality.
Yeah. Doesn't look like we're getting any responses there, Taylor, though.
Cool. Maybe we can do it as an offline follow-up.
Yeah, I'll probably put on LinkedIn and see some responsiveness on.
Super.
Awesome.
Let's wrap up then. Thanks, Taylor, again for your time and insights. It was really fun to explore this topic. Oh, do we see one more question? Okay, that's the same one. Super. For those in the audience, I hope you enjoyed today's session. See you next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.